Hey, thanks for joining today. In this video, we're going to be discussing Maryland's 2024 tax lien auctions and what we know so far. And I stress so far because we have about 14 of the counties have released, and there's about, I think, 9 or 10 remaining that have not advertised their auctions. So the season, it sort of spans the whole spring and into the fall, and we'll talk through when those auctions happen, how to get research on the properties, find them, how to buy them, and just how some of the nuances work between counties here. And so on that note, let's jump in. Actually, I will say, if you want to jump ahead in this video, I'm going to put chapters markers, because the first part of the video is going to cover how the auctions work and what some of the opportunities there. The second part of the video is going to lean into how to research and give you a live demo of researching and buying, how to bid on these properties. And then the last part is a little extra added bonus. We'll cover what happens with the over-the-counter properties, how to find those, even though that's not pertinent to the auctions necessarily. Since you're tuning into this video, you might be interested in knowing a little bit about over-the-counter properties in Maryland. So let's get started and talk about how the tax lien auctions work in Maryland. And Maryland counties, they hold annual tax lien auctions, and this is as good a time as any just to go ahead and say, you are going to get sick of hearing me say it varies by county or it depends on the county, because Maryland gives their counties a lot of leeway in many regards. It's not uncommon in states like Tennessee, where the state will let the counties pick when to have auctions and how often, but Maryland does that. They let the counties auction whenever they want, but they also let them work within the guidelines of the state on things like interest rate and type of interest. And even foreclosure processes can be a little bit different and nuanced by county. So just know that going into Maryland, there's a great opportunity here, but you will have to understand which county you're working out of, or counties, and what makes them unique. So most of the auctions occur online. The good chunk of them are on real auction, but again, the state lets the counties do whatever they want. So there are plenty that are on either one-off systems or just county websites. And those online auctions and whatnot, they occur from March through mid-fall. And we've been tracking for a few years now, and I say mid-fall because it could be sometime between August and October from what we've seen when that last auction occurs. Baltimore County is usually the last county to have their annual tax lien auction. And some years they delay it as late as October. Sometimes it could be as early as August, September. There are also other auctions, like surplus sales, that may occur, usually in the fall. These could be called a bulk sale or sealed bid auction. And Baltimore City is a good example. They've held several bulk sales over the years using a sealed bid format. The auction uses the overbid format. So this overbid format just means that you're basically taking the amount of taxes owed as the opening bid, and you will pay that as essentially the opening bid for the auction, and everything on top of that bid up is called overbid. And it's interesting in Maryland that they don't necessarily require the full overbid to be paid by the investor up front. So in most cases we've seen, you don't pay the overbid until foreclosure proceedings occur. And again, let's go back to my go-to here. This may vary by county. Some counties might require a deposit on that overbid or partial of the overbid to be paid. But for what we've heard and seen in the past, you really are not on the hook for the overbid until foreclosure time, which is somewhat unique if you look at other states. So the interest rates and then the rules about the interest rates absolutely vary by county. Now, first of all, the interest rates themselves, if you see this example, and Arundel County is 18%, Carroll is 14%, Charles is 12%, and then Frederick is 8%. But notice that in Baltimore City, the rules are even different. So they've published a 12% interest rate for owner-occupied properties, like if you're buying a tax lien on a house where the owner lives in it. And then they're advertising 18% in Baltimore City for non-owner-occupied property. My best guess here is that they're trying to put more pressure on landlords and people that have either a second home or a rental property. And that's why the 18% is on there, and you could consider maybe the 12% as a relief for people who actually live in the house and aren't paying the taxes. So one other little nuance here about interest rates is that Some counties will do a prorated return on the interest rate. Charles is a good example. If you have a prorated 12% interest rate in Charles County, if it's prorated, you're going to get 1% per month. It just 12% per year. It divides nicely, 1% per month. Some counties will offer the interest rate or part of the interest rate as a penalty rate. And what that means is instead of getting 1% per month, let's say if Charles or one of these counties was going to do penalty, you would get the full interest rate whether the owner redeemed 1 month in or 12 months in. So not prorated, it's just a flat penalty rate. And again, it depends on the county and how they choose to handle it. And let's take a pit stop here and just look at what that means to go see how the county handles it. We'll start with a few counties that are not in the real auction system as one-offs. So like Arundel County is a good example. They have their own website. There's they put the listings on a page like this, and on their main tax sale page, if you go read like the notice of tax sale, some of the general questions, the tax sale process, these documents and the PDF documents mostly will help you understand what's going on in the auction. So this the general questions one. Let's see. There's give me a second to scroll here. Actually, let's just search for the word interest. So yeah, there we go. Interest rate paid on the lien upon redemption. The current interest rate paid by Arundel County is 18% annually, and it's calculated a monthly rate from the date of the sale to the redemption. That means it's prorated on a monthly rate. So we just went through Arundel County and found the rules, and there could be other things that you want to learn about this. So it's great to really get to know not only the rules, but it helps you understand the opportunity and what advantages you may have investing in this county instead of a different county. For instance, if you found a county that had a flat penalty rate of, let's just say 6%, and then you had another county that had a prorated interest rate of 10%, you might prefer the 6% penalty over 10% prorated because the 6% will pay out in month 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 at a 6% rate, whereas your prorated county is going to pay out at 1%, 2%, 3% per each one of those first 3 months. So and it's a lot to think about, but when you're comparing counties to shop in, you really need to understand the differences in how their interest rates work. So this is Arundel. Let's jump over to Calvert County. They already had their auction, but this is their page where you would read about the different pieces of the FAQs right here, the different rules. Even some of the foreclosure information are available on these pages. Here's Caroline County. It's another one-off that is not on real auction. You can click around their website. There are plenty of different documents, pages, registration pages. There's the terms that you can read through. Again, read and understand these because these are the rules you have to play by. Howard County, just another example, a one-off website that is not on real auction. Which brings us to real auction. And this is Real Auction's website. I've clicked on the Clients tab, and we can filter by Maryland, which I've already done that. And you can see all of these county sites in the list, okay? And I've opened separate tabs to show you this in repetition. Carroll County, on the left tab, you see the bidding rules. If we click on the bidding rules, this is where we would find that information for the county. This table can be very useful to understand how the batches work, how the auction works. But up in this large block of text, you will find interest rates, and you will find percentages and penalties and all those different things that are going to be helpful. So the rate of interest here, 14% from the sale date of redemption. So let's go with another county. This one is Charles County. Bidding rules on the left. Similar looking page, but different information because it's a different county. Baltimore City, different information, different county. Frederick County. And so this is getting probably boring for you. Frederick, Garrett, Kent, Queen Anne's. You get the pattern here. This bidding rules link on Real Auction will take you to where you can find all that information about the bidding processes, the interest rates, and even the foreclosure details. All right, that's probably enough about that. Let's go back and talk about what happens at the end of these tax lien redemptions. So these liens are foreclosable after 6 months by state law, But as we've been saying, counties may apply additional restrictions to the foreclosure process, so understand your local laws. One example of that is, if I remember correctly, Baltimore City will allow foreclosures to begin after 6 months from your tax lien purchase, and that's you starting the foreclosure process is what that means. After 6 months, only if the property is deemed vacant. And my understanding is that if it's occupied, you have to wait 9 months to begin. That's, again, there's so many rules in so many counties that I'm spouting that one off the top of my head from last year, but please understand the county you're shopping in, because that could be a big difference for you. Maybe you don't want to wait 9 months on an occupied property, so you're just going to shop the vacant properties in counties that do that. So yeah, I mentioned that allows you to begin that foreclosure process, those steps, as early as 6 months after the sale. Now, on the other end of it, you must start the foreclosure proceedings within 2 years of the sale, or you're going to void your tax lien sale, and that just means you're going to essentially forfeit. So you don't want to wait more than 2 years. All right, let's switch gears and talk about how many tax liens are available in these auctions. And again, so far, because we have at least 9 or 10 more counties to go, but the total number of tax liens advertised, there were 32,410 tax lien properties so far. One qualifier there is that is the advertised properties. Redemptions have already been kicking in, and thousands of those have been redeemed before the sale. So the number is already less than that, but we go by the advertisement just to show where the starting point was. Out of this 32,410, 25,533 have buildings, so that's a 79% of their tax lien properties have buildings. And we'll do a county breakdown next, but let's keep going on the totals here. The total value of all the auctions so far is over $7 billion, billion with a B. And the total delinquent taxes of the auctions so far, $861 million. Remember, those numbers have gone down because of redemptions, but as the next chunk of counties announce their auctions, these numbers will actually go up again. So just a benchmark of where things stand, this is what was originally advertised in those first auctions. So let's talk about how many of those tax liens are available if we break it down by county. And so this table is a lot to look at. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, so you may want to pause and peruse this table on your own. But suffice it to say, Baltimore City, with the 20,000 parcels, that's 2/3 of the parcels that have been advertised so far. So Baltimore City alone has $3 billion of that $8 billion in auction value, total property value. The average value property is actually pretty low compared to other counties, though, at $162,000. You can see, I think every other county except for Kent and Caroline and St. Mary's, for the most part, Baltimore City is very low in the average value. A lot of vacant lots and cheaper property there. And then $800 million of that delinquent tax is just Baltimore City. If you don't know Maryland as well, county-wise, Baltimore City is its own county, and it's not to be confused with Baltimore County. They are two separate things. But Baltimore City, I'll show you on the map momentarily, is a specific area, more of the city urban area. So, moving across here, we have the buildings and the building percentages. So in this last column, you can see by county, Baltimore City's on the high side with 83% of their properties having buildings. But you can see some of these go as low as 54%, 57%. Even Calvert, only 36% of the tax lien properties had buildings on them. So it is a good bit of diversity in how these auctions look, and we'll see that in a great deal on the map momentarily. But so far, you can get an idea here of different auction sizes, just a large variety of what's going on here. So on that note, I'm going to switch gears and give you a live demo of how we could research what are in these auctions and filter the results by your strategy. So let's cut over and take it from there. So first off, we're using Parcel Fair. This is the Parcel Fair channel. If you don't know about Parcel Fair, this is the tool we use to research. And I'm going to, from the homepage, click on Maryland, and there's last year's Maryland video, soon to be replaced by this year's. And you have a little bit of information basically here, but what I want to draw your attention to is this auction calendar, the purple button. Either one takes you to the same place. And now we're looking at Maryland's 2024 auction calendar. So in April, we already had Calvert County, and then moving into May, we're right about here. The May 9th is the next auction. We have Kent and Caroline, and then Prince George's and Frederick. Prince George's is the largest one at 3,700 out of those auctions. And then back to some of the smaller auctions with Charles, Talbot. And moving on, we really don't get another large auction until May 20th, which is the big one, Baltimore City. You'll notice the redemptions have been so rapid that we went from 20,000 advertised properties down to 10,333. So I think, getting this close to the auction, we'll see a few more redemptions, but I would imagine that first 10,000 are probably the bulk of what are going to disappear before the auction. A few more small auctions, Queen Anne's, Garrett. And then we have Anne Arundel in June with a 2,000 property auction. I think we're getting Allegany's auction tomorrow to be advertised, and then a bunch of other counties. So this calendar will extend further once those have been released. And if you're on this screen and you want to check out one auction in particular, you can click on the map right here. If you're a map person, you can see everything in a county or just what's in this auction by clicking that second link. If you're a list person, you can list everything in the county or just the properties in this auction. And I say everything, that would be listing all the auction properties plus anything over the counter all in one list. So again, up to you which one you prefer. If we only list properties from this auction, let's go see what that looks like. So that's 478. Now we can sort the columns by the value or the amount due, and just kind of play around with this however you want. If I want to filter it, I can click this magnifying glass. Now I can see my normal search filters. So on that note, let's switch over to the map, and what you're seeing on screen is actually all of the auctions that we know on screen at once. And remember, we lost over 10,000 properties in redemption, so we're down to 20,000 in the state right now. That's why it says 20,296 parcels. Let's zoom in. Let's first talk about, I mentioned earlier, Baltimore City is not the same thing as Baltimore County. Baltimore City is this block in the middle, like a donut shape, donut hole rather, and it has all these properties in it. The outer county around it is Baltimore County, and their auction would be much later in the year, maybe September. We might see the list by August or something like that. But you'll notice Baltimore City is carved out of that as this area here. And Baltimore City is one of those places where there's a high density of liens. And we talk about it a lot on the weekly news videos that we have here, especially with the over-the-counter. So today I'm actually going to just go a little south of that, and let's talk about, I believe this is Prince George's County, but let's double check. Oh, no, this is Anne Arundel. My bad. So Anne Arundel is just south of it. Still a lot of properties available there, a couple thousand. And this should be Prince George's here to the east. That's correct. So those are two sizable auctions just south of Baltimore. Prince George's, notably, is right on the edge of Washington, D.C. Probably a lot of commuters, people that traverse between the two. And then Anne Arundel is actually more on the river here, across from Kent Island and some of that. So again, you have urban areas like Baltimore City, maybe the edge of Washington, D.C. here. And then you have some more rural areas. Let's jump to satellite. You can see a lot of greenery and larger tracts of land like this out in Anne Arundel. And then if you keep moving to the east, you will see coastal properties like these. And that's sort of the variety you're looking at with these auctions, and depending on your strategy, it could make a difference to you. So let's just back up and take a look, because this is a lot to take in. We're looking at 20,000 properties at once. So I'm going to walk you through filtering now. I've clicked on the filter button in the bottom left. And first off, let's look at just upcoming auctions. And then second of all, let's take a look at, let's start with vacant land. And let's look at vacant land worth at least, let's say $20,000. With no houses on it, that could be good. We'll say the taxes owed are at least $1,000. If I have a budget, maybe I want to do a max of $5,000 to make sure I don't go out of that range. And let's give it a minimum of 2 acres. So let's just, let's start with that and see. That takes us down to 149 parcels. So if that's something that your strategy would include, we just took you from 20,000 properties down to 149. and in very short order, you're looking at a smaller list. So let's take a property like this one, and I'm gonna just go straight to the report. I'm great at picking properties where the Google car did not drive. I guess this is too rural, so we don't have a street view image on the right, but we do have the satellite image, so we know it's a lot of trees and some road access here on the side. But it's 65 acres, and it's worth $263,000. The amount due, which is actually going to match what's in this little tax lien available block, is $3,850. So that would be the starting bid at the auction, where the overbid would be applied on top of that. So the first bid at the auction is $3,850.98 and goes up from there. If I want to know more about this property, I first of all, these property cards and GIS maps on the right under research links can be very useful. The GIS map will take you to a Maryland map, and the property card takes you to this nice consolidated SDAT system. It's the Department of Assessments and Taxation, where you can see a lot more about the property in any county. Property card's kind of a generic term for just a snapshot of the property information like this. So on that note, if I want to, let's say I've learned enough about this property, I'm interested in making a bid. I'm going to look at the purchase options here, and I'm going to click on this upcoming auction button. And now I have the date, time, place, amount, a link to go register, and a link to the list of properties at auction. So everything you need to get started right here to go register and find the property and bid. So that's going to be helpful to you no matter which auction you're in. That will help you navigate. So that's top to bottom on one property. Let's slide over a county, and let's check out, I think this is in Arundel again. Yes, it is. Okay, so we have a 5-acre property here, and this one does have a Google Street View, so it must not be quite as remote. We can, of course, view the panorama, which I'll show you in a second. You can also order photos and videos from one of our scouts in the area. That's a service that if you just fill this out, they will get back in touch with you and let you know their rates and find out more about what you want. Do you need videos? Do you need photos? Do you need something else? But the panorama view, at least we can take a look around and say, the property's behind those trees. It's 5 acres. It's on this street. It's not a ton to take away here, except we do see some residential houses nearby, and it looks like power right here, which is a good sign if you wanted to get power brought to the property. Usually street view is more, that panorama view is more helpful in a neighborhood if you're trying to assess if there's new development or if the property values, if it looks like a good neighborhood or not. So that is a good top to bottom look at this property. Let's switch over and let's change up our search filters. We got down to those 149 properties. Let's go shake it up a bit. Now we're gonna totally flip it on its head and go look at improvements. So that's going to be anything that has improvements assessed on the property, meaning it could be a house, it could be something has been added to the property that's being taxed and assessed for taxes. So upcoming auctions and improvements, let's bump up our value to $100,000 and say, we want to really focus on properties that are going to be worth $100,000 or more. Let's take our minimum taxes owed up to $2,000. And we'll leave our $5,000 cap on, so the starting bid on any auction we see will be $5,000 or less. We'll just take the acreage off, and let's go from there as a starting point and see how many properties we get. Let's switch it back over to map so I can better contrast. So that took us down to 4,000 parcels. A large chunk of those are in Baltimore City. And let's say I want to take it down even further because we're looking at the whole state. Let's go owner location out of state. It's one of my favorites. This doesn't guarantee, but it implies that the owner is distant to the situation and less involved since they live in a different state. And that knocked us down to 257 parcels, which we can see them on the right side here, and we can click Find on Map and take a look at it. So that's a good property to look at. We have Street View and Panorama and just all the information that we've already gone through. This would be Prince George's auction, and we can see the owner lives actually in Virginia, so that's a different location. Now, to be fair, it is a business lighthouse asset, it looks like, which means it may not mean that it's a rental property or something like that, but it could be. So let's back out of that property, and when I'm looking at just 257 results, one of the things I like to do for research is take it off the map and look at it closer. And on the right side, we have this parcel results button, which gives us 3 options. If I'm a spreadsheet person, I would download my results to CSV. I could save my results as a list or view them in a grid. The only difference in those 2 options is that if I save results as a list, it hangs on to it for later, so I can work on it. Let's go with that option. And I'm going to just make us a new list today. We'll call it Maryland houses. And I'll give it a 2024. And I save that list, and let's go view it. So Maryland houses 2024, 257 properties that we were just looking at. And again, now I can sort by acreage and sort by valuation, land value, whatever I want. Maybe the amount due is the most important thing to me. So remember I set a minimum of $2,000 on taxes. So this is the lowest one, is $2,001.92. So, and from here I can actually work this list. If I see things I like or don't like, let's say I don't want to deal with LLCs like this one, I'm just going to click the remove button. And there's another LLC, and just kind of work it that way. Maybe I see something else that jumps out to me. Maybe the land value is, or the building value is too low, like maybe this, and the land value is what's carrying it. I'm going to remove that maybe. Whatever your strategy is, you might want to just remove properties and keep working the list that way. But so I took 5 properties out. We're down to 252 now. So that's one way you can look at this, is just maybe like a shopping cart or a place that you're tracking your potential bids in one location. All right, so that takes us through searching and filtering, and we've looked at the entire state. What I want to do now is switch gears. We're going to clear filters, and actually I want to go back to my slideshow here, and let's talk about the over-the-counter opportunities. So what happens to tax liens that don't sell? Essentially, they become over-the-counter tax liens, but with some strings attached, maybe a few stipulations we need to talk about. But there are thousands each year, on average, that don't sell at auction. They become leftovers, and the county tax collector holds them until the next auction. They may have a surplus to clear out, and surplus sale. But a handful of the Maryland counties actually sell them over the counter, which is what we're here to talk about. So, example, Allegheny and Arundel, Caroline, Prince George, Baltimore City, those are some of the ones that have been most active in over-the-counter liens that we've seen. So, let's see, that takes us to my next point, which is Baltimore City is typically going to be, Baltimore City, yes, is going to be one of the largest tax lien over-the-counter inventories. It's just scale of magnitude. They have thousands, whereas other counties usually have hundreds. And it's so big that there's actually a few other ways to buy that we'll go over here. So there are alternative over-the-counter programs. One of them is Buy Into Baltimore. Their link has changed since our last video, so that's the new one. I'll drop it in the video description so you can have it in a clickable form. But Buy Into Baltimore, and this is Baltimore City, don't be confused with Baltimore County. They offer, some of these properties are similar to a land bank, meaning they've been delinquent for so long that the county and the city have given up on it and they're ready to sell the property. So it's years after that lien is left over for auction, it will actually qualify for this program. But some of the properties in Baltimore City, on Buy Into Baltimore, are actually just second-year liens that have moved from the first-year inventory to the second year. We'll cover that in a minute, but it just means they're a year older. In general, the Buy Into Baltimore program, though, the Baltimore City Council holds and approves those sales for the properties to the public, which means you could buy them. And they are sold to investors year-round using open bids, several other programs that you can look into if they fit you better. So we will take a look at Buy Into Baltimore. We're going to take a look at some other OTCs. But before we leave, to go back to the map, I just had to show you when we get over-the-counter liens from Baltimore City, it's one of the most unique experiences for us because we have to actually mail off and send money to Baltimore City, and they send us back a printout from what appears to be a mainframe, and we have pictures from over the years. I think this is maybe from last year, and we actually have to pick apart this document and go property by property and scan it into Parcel Fair and then do our research on the property so you can benefit and not have to go through with a highlighter. But I've highlighted one single property in green so you can see if you were getting the papers yourself and buying this list. We get it about once a month. That's as often as they update it. You would be taking this information and trying to make heads or tails of it. So that's the challenge on Baltimore City over-the-counters. And what we do with that for you is, let's just go to Baltimore City here, Maryland, Baltimore City, and I clear my filters out. And remember, we have over-the-counters and auctions. Let's just look at over-the-counter inventory. And our filters are clear, so let's click go. Now, you'll notice earlier the auction properties were in yellow. These properties are going to be in green and blue. Green means it's an over-the-counter tax lien that you can buy. Tax lien, it rhymes with green, should be easy to remember. It also says it at the top of these property previews. The blue properties are actually, you're going to be getting a quiet title from the Buy into Baltimore program. So there's a subtle difference there. You're not buying the lien, you're actually trying to buy the property. So we're looking at this vacant lot, and we can just see the usual information here, but let's click on this purchase option that's bid online, okay? And this is going to, we have the steps for you right here, but it's going to take you to the Buy Baltimore application. And actually, there, I'll click at that time. So let's give them a second to understand what we're doing, and here is the property, that same vacant lot with an application form, the different programs here that it applies. So open bid is what we've always talked about, but there are other ones as well. And you can fill out your little submit inquiry form here, and it is off to the races to try to buy this property. Again, you will have some hoops to go through with the city and the county to try to purchase this, but this is where you start. If this is a property you want to buy, remember, you're not buying a lien, you're actually trying to buy the property. This is how you would do it. So in contrast, let's go to one of the tax liens over the counter, and let's just click the first one. There's one tax lien available. We're going to click on the purchase from Baltimore City OTC liens. So this is where you're going to be dealing directly with the City Bureau of Revenue Collections, and here are the steps where you would take to go buy it. It's a very manual process, but that's how you would go about buying an over-the-counter tax lien. So that's Baltimore City. Don't forget, there are other counties. Let's just do all counties and clear the filters, and let's go over the counter, and you'll be able to see there are other counties as well that have some over-the-counter deals. Baltimore City kind of overshadows a lot of it. So one thing you could do is actually go to our OTC inventory history report and go to Maryland. And again, a lot of these are Baltimore City, but you could check out other counties here. Let's see, let's try Prince George's. There's not much going on in Prince George's right now. Actually, 106 parcels. You can see a lot were removed at once. And then, so if we were going to do that over here, Prince George's, over the counter, 106, and there they are. So that's how you would operate and work through this. Now, I just noticed a funny thing is these over-the-counter listings are actually listed at auction too. That means Prince George's has relisted them. And now you see two options. You could go to the auction and buy it, but it looks like they still have them listed as over-the-counter as well. So that would be an interesting thing. This kind of the timely part of year where they're preparing for the auction, but they had OTCs listed. I honestly don't know as of today, May 6th, if they would sell it to you or not if you went through these steps. They might hold on to some of these until after the auction, or It may just depend on how nicely you ask. I don't really know. But you can see there are 2 liens here. So my guess, again, this is me speculating, is that they would sell you the 2021 lien probably over the phone. But the 2024 one, they're going to reserve for the auction because it's not been available to buy yet. Again, I'm just really speculating over 2021 whether or not they would sell that one to you. It's very common for states and counties to close the books on over-the-counters for a month leading up to the auction. So, maybe that's something, if you've tried that and maybe drop it in the comments and tell us about it. I'd love to hear, as always, what your experiences are. We're always trying to learn from each other. And I really hope this video has been useful to you. It's another market we're focused on here. It's another hot auction season that we're in the middle of. And we do these videos weekly, whether it's a news video or a market focus like this. So please subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates and notifications when these news videos release. It'll just pop up and tell you in YouTube that you have these. And if you like the video, that helps us out as well. But please drop in comments. Let's start a discussion if you have questions or experiences you'd like to share. And again, thank you for watching today.